What if I told you that right now, Kiwi families are living with friends, relatives, or in garages, not because houses are naturally expensive, but because someone deliberately made sure you'd never afford one? You're working multiple jobs, saving every cent you can, finally scraping together a deposit after years of sacrifice, only to be told, sorry, you don't earn enough. And the insulting part, paying rent for a property which, in some cases, is less than the cost of a mortgage. But here's the devastating reality. You're not priced out by accident. Housing was weaponized against working New Zealanders. There's a specific reason why your children will never have their own bedrooms. And it's not because land is scarce. It's because your homelessness makes someone else rich.
In this location, you've basically got to own a European car. Did you see the Lamborghini out the front, Brian? Yeah. That's the kind of neighbourhood that potentially you are buying into. She's all upside, ma'am. I confirm your offer at $1.1 million.
1.2.
1.2. 1,200,000.
500.
And a half. At
1.3.
1.3. See the ruckus you sorted out today for us, man? But the trustees love you for this.
1.320.
1320 at 1380 at 1385 1387
1.391.
1,391. That's pretty conclusive at 1391. Team, you do it again. Harcourt's no surprise to me at 1,391. It goes and goes. You list with these superstars. This is the result you get. It is sold to you, sir. Order.
Sold 1.391 million.
This is 44 Griffin Park Road, Mount Roskill, March 2018. What you're watching is one of the hottest property auctions of the year. The reserve, $1.1 million. The final price, $1,391,000. But here's the kicker. By May 2024, this same house was valued at $1,360,000. Today, it's worth $1,290,000. Politicians are celebrating this as housing becoming more affordable. But here's what they're not telling you. Even with a $100,000 drop, this modest three-bedroom home is still completely out of reach for the average Kiwi family. And that raises the uncomfortable question nobody wants to answer. If house prices have dropped, why haven't your rents? Before we dive into how they rigged the game against everyday Kiwis, smash that subscribe button. If you're tired of being told housing is getting more affordable, while you're still living paycheck to paycheck, hit the notification bell because they don't want you seeing the truth about what's really happening. Let's talk about that house at Griffin Park Road. It's nothing special, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, needs a bit of work, the kind of place your parents probably bought in the 80s for what you now spend on a decent car. But in March 2018, investors were fighting over it like it was made of gold. Not a single young family in that auction room. They'd already given up trying. Now, 7 years later, that same house has dropped to $1.29 million. But here's the thing. Even with that drop, you'd still need to earn about 4 times what most Kiwis make just to get a mortgage. This mess didn't happen overnight. Meet the architects of your misery, Roger Douglas and his Rogernomics revolution of the 1980s. These weren't just policy changes. They were a complete economic coup that transformed New Zealand from a country that worked for working people into a playground for property speculators. Douglas and his treasury mates didn't just deregulate the economy, they weaponized it against you. They removed rent controls, slashed state housing, and turned your basic human need for shelter into a commodity to be traded like pork belly futures. But the real kicker, the Employment Contracts Act of 1991. While they were telling you this would create flexibility and opportunity, they were systematically destroying your bargaining power. While this set up the basic framework for today's problems, the housing crisis we're facing in 2025 didn't happen overnight. It took 40 years of governments making similar choices that made the problem worse. Think of it this way. Rogernomics planted the tree, but every government since then kept watering it until it grew into the massive housing crisis we have today. Now here's the part that'll really piss you off. Remember how that Griffin Park Roadhouse dropped $100,000 in value? You'd think rents would drop too, right? Wrong. Your rent probably went up again this year. Because here's the thing. Even though house prices dropped, interest rates went through the roof. So landlords are actually paying more on their mortgages now than they were in 2018. But here's the scam. When house prices were going up and interest rates were low, did your rent go down? Hell no. And now that their costs have gone up, guess who's paying for it? You are. It's heads they win, tails you lose. When their costs are low, they keep the profits. When their costs go up, they pass them straight on to you. Here's what life looks like for most Kiwis now. You're spending half your income on rent for a place that's probably cold, damp, and falling apart. You can't save for a house deposit because every dollar goes to rent, power, and groceries. Meanwhile, your kids are asking why they can't have their own room, and you're explaining that this is just how things are. Except it's not how things have to be, it's how they've made things. While politicians celebrate tiny price drops, families are living in their cars in Auckland. Kids are doing homework in motel rooms because that's the only housing their parents can get from the government. And here's the kicker. We're spending billions of your tax dollars putting families in motels instead of just building houses they can afford to buy. That ordinary house at Griffin Park Road costs more than mansions in most other countries. We've somehow made New Zealand, a country with more space than we know what to do with, unaffordable for New Zealanders. And here's an unspoken truth. Your kids are looking at moving to Australia not for adventure, but because they literally can't afford to live in their own country. Here's why nothing changes. The people making the decisions own multiple houses. High house prices make them richer. When house prices go up, they win. When house prices stay high, even with small drops, they still win. You losing out on home ownership? That's not a bug in their system, that's a feature. And here's another way they're screwing you. They bring in thousands of people to work minimum wage jobs. More people competing for rentals means higher rents for you. More people working for less means lower wages for you. It's a double hit, and it's deliberate. They tell you the solution is to be more productive or get better skills. But here's the truth. We're not investing in the things that create good jobs. We're too busy making money off houses. Why build the next big tech company when you can just buy another rental property and collect rent forever? Want to know what would actually work? Let house prices fall to levels where normal people can afford them. Build thousands of state houses. Stop treating housing like a get-rich-quick scheme. But they won't do it because it would hurt their property-owning mates. Here's what you can do. Stop accepting their excuses. A $100,000 drop on $1 million house isn't progress when you're earning $50,000 a year. Ask your local MP how many houses they own. Ask them why they think houses like Griffin Park Road should cost more than most people earn in 20 years. Support anyone who's actually willing to build affordable housing and stop treating your basic need for shelter like a casino game. That auction at Griffin Park Road wasn't just about one house. It was the moment New Zealand officially decided that housing was for investors, not for people who actually need homes. 7 years later, even with the so-called price drops, nothing has really changed. The game is still rigged against you. Share this with every Kiwi who's been told they should be grateful for tiny price drops on houses they still can't afford. And leave a comment. Are you ready to demand houses that normal people can actually buy? Or are we going to keep pretending that million-dollar houses are affordable for working families? Your call, New Zealand. But decide fast, because while you're waiting for things to get better, they're already planning how to squeeze even more money out of you. Stay angry, stay informed, and never let them convince you that your homelessness is your fault.